We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast. I am your host on this magical mystery tour that we call Ole Miss Fandom, Stephen Willis. Today's show is going to be a little bit of a scattershoot. We're going to talk a little bit about Zxavian Harris and what he brings. We might talk a little bit about Taylor Groves and what he brings. Basically, we're going to do a little bit of recruiting, basically as a preview of the recruiting show that's coming up. If everything goes well, we're going to do a test later on this afternoon for Leanne Herring's recruiting show. You got a commit watch up on Zxavian Harris. You've got a preview on Arkansas with Kevin. I forgot his last name. I apologize, Kevin. We had a really great time on that thing and got in the weeds a little bit offensively, talking about the modern day triple option and how you attack defenses doing that. It was really cool and well worth the listening. About 20 minutes right down there. If you have any questions about it, you want to talk about it, bring it up in the comments. Speaking of comments, today, before we get started, I do want to tell you the chat is open for this show, and this is the way that works. If you're watching on a live stream, just comment on it. It doesn't matter if it's YouTube. It doesn't matter if it's Twitch, the Twitter feed, the Facebook comments. It just doesn't matter. They will show up on the screen, and they will all done. A bot basically all gathers them up and puts them in one place. If you're interested in keeping the conversation going, even when we're not on the air, we have a Discord server at Positively Ole Miss, to where we can talk about all things Ole Miss football, and we'll allow you to chat. So basically what we're trying to recreate is the stuff that the message boards and things make you want to pay for. If you need that, this is going to be a free alternative to that. Before we get started, though, you can follow us on Twitter at The Stephen Willis or at The Rebel Walk. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast or facebook.com/The Rebel Walk. Hit us up, subscribe, hit the bell on Twitter or on YouTube. Positively Ole Miss. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And also you can catch us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss. If audio is more of your thing, we're available on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. We're also on smaller podcatchers, but it would take forever to list them. Even though we don't, lift up the podcatcher, it's growing just as much as the other stuff. And we got nearly 50,000 views last month, and a month where Ole Miss sports really stopped about the 12th. So we haven't even gotten to football season yet, guys. Think about what we're going to be able to do for football season. We've got the David Walker quarterback show coming up during football season on Mondays. We're going to have a preview of the next opponent. We're going to have a reaction of the game that just happened. Like we have been doing the preview and reactions. Those have already started. We did that with baseball. We're going to do a recruiting show weekly. That's 4 shows a week about this week's coming football game, basically, and all things going on. You cannot get this anywhere else. This just doesn't exist. I mean, this is a completely new thing, and the fact that we're able to do it for Ole Miss is a blessing. The fact that I'm able to do this is a blessing. And we're also working right now, since the numbers are going up so high, getting you guys a hookup for all your Disney vacations down here in Central Florida, so you can always know what special rules are going on and what you need to look for. They can also hook you up with the best park on the best day. It's going to be a real cool thing if this thing comes to fruition. So hang out and see if that comes through, but through cruises and everything else. Vacations are all about Central Florida, so this will be an avenue for you to not stress out about it in North or South Mississippi. So that's what we're working on. Hopefully it will come to fruition in the next week or two. But whenever we get that, we'll show you. Let's see. Big commit last night. Just absolutely a big commit. Zxavian Harris, the big mountain of a man from Germantown, Mississippi. High school in Mississippi. It's in Madison, actually. So it's just north of Jackson. 6'8", 335. Just a really great guy. When you watch his film, you notice two things. He either bull rushes or he uses agility to make plays, which is interesting for somebody like that on both ends of the spectrum. But there's not a lot of middle ground at this point. Now, Randall Joyner and Marquise Watson have a big job ahead of them because once all this is combined and a little finesse goes into the game with all the power and just starts mixing it together, you're talking about a guy that's going to be tough to stop. He's a guy that's going to demand double teams. And you've heard me talk about the need for double teams in this defense. We're trying to make explosive plays, and to do that, we need to get numbers advantages. And the way you get numbers advantages is if they're too scared to single block a person on the defensive line, because there's more offensive line blockers than defensive line players. 5 offensive line blockers, in our case, 3 defensive line players, even though Sam Williams or whoever's out there rushing. So that's 5 on 4. There's always a numbers advantage. So the way you cut that down is through double teams. If they have to double team our nose guard, all of a sudden you're on 3 on 2 instead of 5 on 3. They have to double, let's say, Taiwan Malone. All of a sudden you're even on the end. You can win a 1-on-1 and go get the quarterback. You can blitz, and all of a sudden that blitzing player is going to get picked up by a 180-pound scat back as opposed to a offensive lineman. The tight end is being held in out of from routes, which nobody wants to do now because they have to protect. It's an offense effector. And that is why it is so important to see the way that everything is being built. Now, the first couple recruiting class, Ole Miss obviously spent a ton of energy on the back part of the defense. It makes sense. There's 5 players. 5 of the 11 are in the defensive backfield. So that's a logical place to start. The next place will be the 3, though. And you're looking at building 8 of your 11. And you just have to 8 of your 11, and you just have to fix your linebackers. Which there's a little bit going on there as well. But you can see that going in the next class. The Reginald Hughes pick. That's about fixing the linebackers. So there's a definite roster building strategy that is happening. There's a definite order in which they are doing things, and it is based off of essentially numbers. Half the defense with the defensive backfield, we need to get that fixed. The next step is the defensive line. That's the Taiwan Malone, the Isaiah Iton, the Jamon Gordon. Now, Zxavian Harris. And you can see it starting to fit. So next up will be between the 2 defensive ends and the 2 linebackers. And then after it's over, after 2 or 3 years, you have a pretty tough defense. Because I will flat out tell people all day, absolutely, we'll have this conversation all day. If Ole Miss is 60th ranked defense in the country, just 60th, a dead, like halfway in between. Ole Miss is a 10-win team. Maybe 11. And the games they lost, they were in because of this offense. Remember, this defense is going to be trying to make explosive plays, whether turning the offense over or an explosive loss yardage plays, something that goes from 2nd and 4 to 3rd and 8. That's a big play for this defense. Because in modern day football, there's a ton of 5-yard plays. A ton of 5-yard plays. Over 5, it kind of gets back into older football being more successful. But the short yardage and keep things like keeping on schedule, you hear that all the time. That's to get to them under 5-yard plays. Because if you only need 4 yards, sorry about that, it's so much more easy to get them as opposed to a 3rd and 8 or, heaven forbid, a 3rd and 12 and almost impossibility of a 3rd and 16. And it's all based off of that box. Now, if it's so short, these guys on the back end of the defense can't get there. So it doesn't matter. You actually have a little bit of better chance of hitting those because they're afraid of the top coming off the defense. The defense wants to play in 10, 15-yard increments. They want to do that, and they want to squeeze you like a boa constrictor. That's the way modern defense is built. That's what they generally want. If you send a person deep every play, it gets a little bit wider. That 15 yards becomes 20, 25. And a gap develops behind the linebackers and in front of the safeties because the safeties have to be deeper than the deepest. So it's going to go like that. The linebackers are going to go much more slow. So it'd be like that. So let's see. That gap right there is where we want to expose the defense in the passing game. That's the reason tight ends and slot receivers are so important in this offense. That is really what makes it go. So now, if you take that little thing that I just showed you and mix it with the run game, with the tempo, jet sweep, the defensive end has to go. It's a completely unblocked guy. He has to go if he has any chance to get him. But if he goes, you can pull it and hand it off on the zone and go in behind him. The linebackers are also flowing to the jet sweep. If they move a little bit, their fits are messed up on the inside zone. So there's a ton of stuff with this offense. This offense, every run play has a pass play. Every pass play has a run play attached. There's really no way to be right, as so many teams found out last year. And we talked on the Arkansas preview yesterday about how it's essentially the same offense with just Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin here and Sam Pittman and Kendall Briles there. They might attack you different ways, but it's essentially the same offense. So it's constructed the same. So we talked a little bit about the triple options and the differences and the variances in scheme between the two, and why this is essentially a triple option offense. Now, what people need to realize whenever we run the Baylor system, and I don't think people realize this enough. I think from time to time it gets lost. Is Art Briles was a wishbone coach. He coached for 20 years coaching the wishbone. He then went from there under Mike Leach at Texas Tech. From there, he started building his own offense. And inside the pass game, and inside the run game, there were options assigned to everything because he loved the triple option offense. So this is second and third generation stuff of that offense. Not many people run it because they were so secretive at Baylor. It didn't spread out. It didn't go. It was a very close-knit group. But now it's starting to get out a little bit. You got Ole Miss with Jeff Lebby. You got Kendall Briles up at Arkansas, even though he was at FAU and FSU and Houston as well in the interim. And Jeff Lebby was at UCF. And it's a really interesting thing. The most complex part of it is the tempo. Everything else is increasingly simple because it needs to be. Because you can't go fast if you're overthinking. So if you do things based on that tempo, giving them different looks and things like that, all of a sudden, gaps open up, creases open up, and that running game gets hit. And those linebackers have to start flowing, and then the passing game can hit. Those gaps come up behind them. And then the safeties are worried about the gap coming up in front of them, and then all of a sudden you get them over the top. It's a hugely simple offense. It really is. But the number of options, the number of tags, the tempo of it, honestly, even before it got to Ole Miss, it was my favorite offense in the country. I love it. So fast. I mean, it's so fast. Yeah, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. We're going to take a short break. Whenever we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Zxavian Harris, Taylor Groves, Reginald Hughes, and the recent commits to the Ole Miss defense. We'll talk a little bit about them. So stick around, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the POMcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. And I hope you are enjoying this magical mystery tour we call Ole Miss Sports. And so I want to tell you about the rebelwalk.com. They do a fantastic job. Evie and the team do just about anything you want when it comes to Ole Miss sports. It allows you to follow the Ole Miss programs and have fun doing it. It's not something that's going to be all angsty and anxiety ridden. So you can follow them. Basically, it provides a subscriber level experience for no money. The only thing it costs you is your time, and it's boy, oh boy, well worth it. Anyway, go to therebelwalk.com, go to therebelwalk.com, and see it for yourself. It's all free. All right. So we're going to talk about Zxavian Harris. We're going to talk about Taylor Groves. We're going to talk about Reginald Hughes. Let's see if I have them on there. Let me make sure their audio is where they need to be, because I'm going to put some highlights of them up as well. And that way you'll get to hear me. And that is what we want. So we start out with Zxavian Harris. Like I said, he's a big mountain of a man from Germantown High School in Madison, Mississippi. And you can see a little bit. I mean, a little bit is him just leaning on people because of his size. And a little bit is just, I do not mean this in any type of a negative way, but it's like the dancing bear. He's so light on his feet. Just a couple of lateral movements when you see them, it's just like, whoa, how is that possible? And he just goes and makes a play, and it's just something that's worth seeing, really. Now, on the other side, in the back end, because everybody's recruiting him on that side of the ball, I'm not 100% sure he's going to end up there, because he does seem to have elite ball skills. He's a one-on-one winner. if he plays on the defensive side of the ball, it won't be the old adage of, well, we know how they ended up there, because he has elite ball skills. And he's also a fairly physical kid. He plays 1A ball up north of Nashville, kind of in between where 65 and 24 split, up north of Hendersonville and that territory. But the small school apparently showed out occasionally in camps. And what that tells people is that he can compete, and it'll translate a little bit. It wasn't just him dominating lesser competition. And him being a one-on-one winner, that is a legit concern, because sometimes whenever you play small school ball, you become a one-on-one winner just because you have a gap. So if you can translate that over and over, that's worth seeing. But he's a 4-star out of Cross Plains, Tennessee. Good player. I really enjoy watching him play. He's a fast guy, but he doesn't look overly fast. I think it was because he's such a long strider. And you can just help. Whenever the ball hits his hands, it just sticks. Now, the other side of the coin is Reginald Hughes, linebacker from Northeast Mississippi Community College. We were talking about the strategy of Ole Miss basically putting together their defense, and how they started on the back end, then they went to the defensive line. Well, this is an avenue to try and hit the linebackers, which you need to, because after this season, you're losing Momo and Lakeith Henry. So there's going to be, and Chance Campbell. You're losing your whole linebacking core. So you better figure out how to do it. And next year, that might be finding a transfer in the offseason. So some good players. They're all available on Huddle. Go to their profile. The profiles are Reginald Hughes, Northeast Mississippi Community College, Taylor Groves, Cross Plains, Tennessee, and Zxavian Harris, Madison, Mississippi, Germantown High School. If you follow those and see those, you can go through and see more videos that they have. And as we move forward in recruiting, which we are going to start off today, that's the plan. The video might not go up live until tomorrow morning, because I like to schedule my videos at 5 a.m. You take those and you can look and see exactly what's going on. We're going to look. Let's see. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to cover. We're going to touch on the commitments, and we're going to talk about the Mansfield kids, and we're going to talk about some under the radar players and a couple of players that you might not expect to deal with Ole Miss. That's all. That's what's coming up on the first Rebel Walk recruiting show. Should be great with Leanne Herring. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to give you a couple minutes back. It's a busy day on the Positively Ole Miss video channel. I understand that. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes back. So hopefully you can spend some time watching other videos. And I want you guys to have a great weekend. Stay safe. And of course, hotty toddy.